Trust that you are well, and I also hope that you had a great day today. All right, so on our on our grade seven lesson, our grade seven English lesson on personal pronouns, we are we are going to be doing personal pronouns, right? So it is a grade seven English lesson on personal pronouns. All right, so for today's lesson, before we start, you are going to go to aplusstudents.ca. And once we've gone to aplusstudents.ca, you are going to log in with your username as well as your password. Once we've logged in with our username as well as our password, we are going to choose the subject or select the subject of language arts. And then we scroll down up until we get to grade 7. All right, so once we are at our grade 7, in our grade, which is grade 7, language arts, we're going to scroll down to the chapter that says personal pronouns. So, personal pronouns. So, pronouns. Oopsie. Pronouns. Oh, gosh. Let's go to pronouns. All right, so with pronouns, right, we said that we need to identify pronouns. So within our lesson for today on pronouns, right, we need to identify pronouns and their antecedents, right? All right, so we're going to identify pronouns and their antecedents. We're going to use the pronoun that agrees with the antecedent, and we're going to choose between subject and object pronoun, compound subject and object with I and me, and then we are going to also choose between whether it is a personal or a reflexive pronoun, right? So basically, our lesson for today is on pronouns, right? Pronouns. All right, so we're going to go on to the first lesson, which is to identify pronouns and the antecedents. All right, so a pronoun is a word that takes the place of a noun or a noun phrase. So a pronoun is a word that takes the place of a noun or a noun phrase, right? And the noun or the noun phrase refers to, it's called an antecedent or an antecedent. All right, so now if we're going to look at a few examples, right? Remember we said that a pronoun, it is a word that takes the place of a noun, right? Or it takes the place of a noun phrase. And the noun or the noun phrase that the pronoun refers to, we call that the antecedent. And an example of that is Rachel is tired, right? So Rachel is tired, even though she slept for 10 hours last night. So Rachel is tired, even though she slept for 10 hours last night. So basically, the noun within the sentence, right? The noun is Rachel. So our noun is Rachel. So the noun Rachel, it is the antecedent of the pronoun, which is she. right? And remember, we specifically said that the pronoun is a word that takes the place of the noun or the noun phrase, and that noun or the noun phrase that the pronoun refers to, it is called the antecedent. So, which means that the word she is the antecedent, right? So the noun Rachel in this sentence that we basically just did, so the noun Rachel, it is the antecedent of the pronoun which is she. All right, so if we look at the next one, apparently Tom and Sarah just landed. Who is picking them up? So apparently Tom and Sarah just landed. Who is picking them up? And once again, a pronoun, it is the word that takes the place of the noun, right? And the noun that the pronoun refers to is called the antecedent, right? Which is all the so it's basically the noun or the noun phrase, right? So in this case, Tom and Sarah, right? That's the noun phrase, right? So which means that the noun phrase, which is Tom and Sarah, it is the antecedent of the pronoun which is them, because the them refers to Tom and Sarah. So them refers to Tom and Sarah, which is a noun phrase, and the noun phrase, which is Tom and Sarah, we call that it is the antecedent of the pronoun which is them. All right, let's go to the next one. Surprisingly, my brother's basketball team won all of its games this season. Surprisingly, my brother's basketball team won all of its games this season, right? So, my brother's basketball team, it is a noun phrase. So, now the noun phrase, which is my brother's basketball team, it is the antecedent of the pronoun its, right? Because its refers to the basketball team. So its refers to the basketball team. So it's the pronoun, and the noun phrase, which is my brother's basketball team, it is the antecedent of the pronoun which is its. All right. Taking care. Taking care of pets can be difficult. So taking care of pets can be difficult, but it is quite worthwhile. So taking care of pets can be difficult, but it is quite worthwhile. So now we need to basically identify the pronoun, and the pronoun here, it is it, right? So the noun phrase, right, which is taking care of pets. So the noun phrase, which is taking care of the pets, it is the antecedent of the pronoun which is it. So taking care of pets, which is the noun phrase, is the antecedent, right, of the pronoun which is it. And remember, we said that the noun or the noun phrase that the pronoun refers to, which is either it, it's, them, or she, the pronoun refers to them, we call that the antecedent, right? So instead of, for example, saying Rachel, which is the noun, we can just say she, right? Instead of saying Tom and Sarah, which is the noun phrase, we just say them. Instead of saying my brother's basketball team, which is a noun phrase, we can just say its. And instead of the noun phrase taking care of its pets, we can just say it, right? So it eats them and she, that is the pronoun, right? And phrase or the noun that the pronoun refers to, we call that the antecedent. All right. All right. So now we need to select a noun whose antecedent is the detective and I. So the detective and I, we need to choose the pronoun whose antecedent is the detective and I. Tomorrow, detective and I will turn over all of our evidence to the authorities. We need to choose the pronoun whose antecedent is the detective and I. So tomorrow, the detective and I will turn over all of our evidence to the authority. So if we choose or if we select the pronoun, right, whose antecedent is the detective and I, then we can say it is our. Because the detective and I will be handing in our evidence, which means that it is our evidence, the detective and I. So our is the pronoun, right? Our is the pronoun. So the pronoun is our, and it basically replaces the noun phrase, which is the detective and I. And remember, we said that the pronoun is a word, it takes the place of a noun, or it takes the place of a noun phrase. And in this sentence, the word our or the pronoun our, it takes the place of the noun phrase, which is the detective and I. All right, we're going to the next one. John James Audubon. So, John James Audubon was a famous naturalist and artist who studied birds. In the 1820s, the printer Robert Havel helped him publish one of the finest books of bird drawings ever made. So, John James Audubon was a famous naturalist and artist who studied birds in the 1820s. Oh gosh, sorry. Oh, sorry. So, John James was a famous naturalist and artist who studied birds. And in the 1820s, the printer Robert Havel helped him publish one of the finest books of birds drawings ever. Sorry. Right? So now we need to choose the pronoun, right? Who's intercede or who basically replaces John James Audubon, right? So if we choose the pronoun that replaces the antecedent, which is John James Audubon, and then we can then choose him, right? So the word him, because Robert Havel helped John James, which means that he then just said him. And the word him or the pronoun him, it replaces the name, which is John James Audubon. Right? So him is the pronoun that replaces the noun phrase, which is John James Audubon. Although poinsettia flowers are not highly toxic, their sap can irritate the skin. So, although poinsettia plants are not highly toxic, their sap can irritate the skin. We need to select the pronoun whose antecedent is poinsettia plants, right? So the pronoun within that sentence that replaces the noun phrase, which is the poinsettia plants, right? We can then say it is there. So we're going to choose the pronoun which is there, right? Because they are saying that although the positia plants are not highly toxic, their sap can irritate the skin, which means that we are talking about that the poisettia plant can irritate the skin. So there it replaces the noun phrase, which is the positia plant, right? All right. Okay, so that is basically us identifying pronouns as well as their antecedents, right? So we're just going to quickly do a test on identifying either a pronoun and the antecedents, right? And remember we said that the pronoun, it basically replaces the noun or that noun phrase, or not even replace, but it takes the place of the noun or the noun phrase. Did you hear about the time that Sean and I found out a wasp nest in our garage? Found a wasp nest in our garage. So we need to select the pronoun whose antecedent is Sean and I, right? So did you hear about the time that Sean and I found a wasp nest in our garage? Sorry. So is it you, which is the pronoun, or our, which is the pronoun? We need to choose the correct pronoun, which basically replaces or takes the place of Sean and I. All right, so if we then choose the pronoun that takes the place of Sean and I, right, then we can say that we found it in our garden, right? So did you hear about the time that Sean and I found a wasp nest in our garden, right? So our, which refers to Sean and I, it is that pronoun. When the family cat went missing, my husband and I distributed flowers around town. The very next day, our neighbor found her, right? So we need to select the pronoun whose antecedent is my husband and I. Is it our or is it neighbor, right? The pronoun that takes the place of my husband and I. We need to choose the pronoun that takes the place of the noun phrase, my husband and I. So once we select the pronoun that takes the place of my husband and I, then we are going to say it is our, right? So it was our neighbor, right? My husband and I's neighbor. Hector and I went to buy oranges, but they turned out to be tangerines. I guess we both think that oranges and tangerines look the same. We need to choose the pronoun that replaces Hector and I. Is it we or is it they? Hector and I meant to buy oranges, but they turned out to be tangerines. I guess we both think that oranges and tangerines look the same. So if we choose or select the pronoun whose antecedent is Hector and I or replaces Hector and I, then we can say it is we, right? So we refers to Hector and I. All right. So that is us identifying pronouns and the antecedents, right? And we see that the pronoun, it takes the place of either the noun or the noun phrase. Now we're going on to the next lesson that says use the pronoun that agrees with the antecedent. And once again, a pronoun, it is a word that takes up the place of a noun or it takes the place of a noun phrase. right? And we see that the noun or noun phrase that the pronoun refers to, it is the antecedent, right? And a pronoun must agree with its antecedent, right? If it doesn't agree, then it is not a pronoun. All right. Then we have singular pronouns, and then we have plural pronouns. So singular pronouns, right? It takes the place of singular nouns, right? So singular plural pronouns, it takes the place of singular nouns. And then we also have plural pronouns, right? Which takes the place of plural nouns. And remember, singular refers to one person, place, or thing. And then we have plural pronouns, which refers to more than one person, place, or thing. So the singular pronouns, right, that takes place of a singular noun, right? These singular pronouns, they include words like I, you, she, he, it, me, him, her, his, its, my, and yours, right? So the singular pronouns, right, they include those words that I just mentioned, right? It refers to one person or one thing, right? And then we have the plural pronouns, right? Plural pronouns. And we say that the plural pronouns, right, it takes the place of the plural nouns. And the plural pronouns refers to more than one person, place, or thing, right? So plural pronouns, it takes the place of plural nouns, or plural pronouns takes the place of nouns that are joined by the conjunction, specifically and, right? So and, it's like saying John and I, Jack and Jill, right? So that is the conjunction is in between the two words or the two nouns, which is and, right? So that refers to more than one person or more than one thing that we are basically talking about, right? So plural pronouns, it takes the place of a plural noun or plural nouns, or it takes the place of plural nouns or nouns that is joined by the conjunction and. If we look at an example of a singular pronoun, right? Rachel is tired, even though she slept for 10 hours last night, which means that our singular pronoun is she, right? And it takes the place of the noun Rachel. So she refers to Rachel, who is tired even though she slept for 10 hours last night. Surprisingly, my brother's basketball team won all of its games this season. So the word its, or let's say the pronoun its, right? It refers or it takes the place of my brother's basketball team, right? So they won the all of their games or its games this season. Can you open this jar of pickles? I can't get it to open. So I can't get it to open. So it refers to the jar of pickles. And these three examples that we just made, right, it is singular pronouns, right, which refers to either one person, one place, or one thing, right? Then the examples of the plural pronouns, right, which refers to more than one person, place, or thing. For example, my neighbors. My neighbors spent the weekend at their cabin in South Lake Ohio. Ohio. My neighbors spent the weekend at their cabin in South Lake Tahoe, right? Which means that the word there or the pronoun there, it takes the place of my neighbors, right? So there is the pronoun that takes the place of my neighbors. Where are the cans of soup I just bought? They aren't in the cupboard. So they is the pronoun that replaces the cans of soup, right? So they aren't in the cupboard, which means that we are talking about the cans of soup that aren't in the cupboard. Izzy and I spent all day on our science project. So the word our, right, it replaces Izzy and I, right? And as you can also see, if you look at Izzy and I, right, we say that the plural pronoun, right, it takes the place of nouns that are also joined by a conjunction, which is and. And here we have that example, which is Izzy and I. There's the conjunction and in the middle, right? So Izzy and I spent all day on our science project. Our refers to Izzy and I. All right. Now we need to complete the sentence with the pronoun that agrees with the antecedent in bold, right? All right. So Arthur Ashe was a tennis star and a human rights activist. In 1975, then we can say he. So in 1975, he became the first African American man to win Wimbledon. So Arthur Ashe was a tennis star and a human rights activist. And in 1975, he became the first African American man to win Wimbledon. So the pronoun he, right, it agrees with the antecedent in bold, which is Arthur Ashe. It is replacing the word Arthur Ashe, right? It is telling us about Arthur Ashe, right? And Arthur Ashe, it is a singular pronoun. So he is a singular pronoun. All right, we're going on. My teammates and I always stretch and run laps before play soccer. So my teammates and I always stretch and run laps before. We can say before we play because we refers to my teammates and I. And we even said that, which we didn't go over, but plural pronouns are words that are we, you, they, us, them, our, your, and their, right? That is but common plural pronouns. So my teammates and I always stretch and run laps before we play soccer. So we is the pronoun that replaces the noun phrase, which is my team and I, right? And it basically agrees with the antecedent in bold, which is we agrees with my teammates and I. When Hillary Rodham Clinton was elected to the United States Senate in 2000, do we say she became the only first lady to have held national office, right? So we will say she, then she became, because it's a lady. So she became the only first lady to have held national office. So when Hillary Rodham Clinton was elected to the United States Senate in 2000, she became the only first lady to have held national office. So she is the pronoun that agrees with the antecedent in bold, which is Hillary Rodham Clinton, right? So she is the pronoun that takes the place of Hillary Rodham Clinton. So instead of repeating her name all the time, we use words like pronouns, right? In order then to kind of shorten or to take the place of someone's name. So she, it refers to Hillary Rodham Clinton, right? All right, let's do a test, right? So now we're going to do a test to see if we are able to use the pronouns that agrees with the antecedent. And now it says that we need to complete the sentences with the pronouns that agrees with the antecedent in bold. Mother Teresa first worked as a high school teacher before devoting her or his life to working with India's poor. We need to choose the correct pronoun that agrees with the antecedent in bold, which is Mother Teresa. All right, so then it means that we are going to choose her, right? Because her takes the place of Mother Teresa. When Hillary Rodham Clinton was elected to the United States Senate in 2000, is it she or her became the only first lady to have held national office? She or her became the first or became the only first lady to have held national office. All right, so if we choose the word or the pronoun that replaces or takes the place of Hillary Rodham Clinton, then we can say she became the only first lady. Candace volunteers at the hospital on weekends. She or her delivers flowers and other gifts to new mothers, right? Which means that we're going to say she delivers flowers and other gifts to new mothers. So she is the pronoun that takes the place of Candace. All right, and now we are going back. We're going back, and that was now us using the pronoun that agrees with the antecedent. Now we're going on to the next one, which is to choose between the subject and object pronoun. All right, you can use a subject pronoun as a subject of a sentence or clause, right? So you can use a subject pronoun as a subject of a sentence, no baby, or clause. It tells who is doing something. Remember, a subject, right? It tells us who is doing something, or it is usually at the beginning of a sentence, right? So the subject, it basically tells us who is doing something. And it's usually at the beginning of a sentence. You can also use a subject pronoun after a linking verb, right? After a linking verb, such as am, is, are, was, were, or be, right? And the subject pronouns are I, you, he, she, it, we, and they. right? So the subject pronouns, right, we can also use after the linking verbs. For example, I am, he is, right? We are, they are, right? So that is but just an example, right? All right, so now if we look at the an example over here, it says, after finishing the experiment, I showed my teacher the result, right? Which means that the subject pronoun, so the subject pronoun within that sentence is I. So I is the subject of the sentence, right? Because I showed my teacher the results. So I is the subject pronoun within that sentence, right? All right, we're going to the next one. Yes, it was she, sorry, who won first place. So, yes, it was she who won first place. The subject pronoun within that sentence is she, and she is used after a linking verb was, right? So the linking verb is was, and the word, the basically the subject pronoun that comes after the linking verb, right, is she, which is was is the linking verb. So the subject pronoun she is used after the linking verb, which is was, right? Right? So it was she who won the first place. So that is a subject pronoun, and we say that the subject pronoun, it tells us who is doing something. And we usually find a subject pronoun at the beginning of a sentence, right? So then after the subject pronoun, we also have an object. We also have an object pronoun, right? So we also have an object pronoun. And we can use an object pronoun after an action verb. So we can use an object pronoun after an action verb, right? And you can also use an object pronoun after a preposition. And the prepositions are either like, for example, like at, sorry, for, of, on, to, or with, right? So we can use it then after preposition. The object pronouns, right? The object pronouns are me, you, him, her, it, us, and them, right? So once again, if we were to even find the difference now between a subject pronoun and an object pronoun, right, we can say that the subject pronoun within the sentence or the clause, it tells us who is doing something, and we usually find it at the beginning of a sentence. And then we have an object pronoun, right, which we usually find after an action verb, or it comes after an action verb, right? All right. If we look at the sentence, which is the example sentence, after finishing the experiment, my teacher showed me the results. So after finishing the experiment, my teacher showed me the results, right? Which means that the object pronoun within the sentence is me, right? And me comes after the action verb, which is showed, right? So me is the object pronoun, and it comes after the action verb, which is showed, right? So after finishing the experiment, my teacher showed me the result. Showed meaning it is the action verb, and me is the object pronoun, right? All right, the next one. My teacher showed the results to me. So my teacher showed the results to me. So the word me, right? It is an object pronoun. So me is an object pronoun. And it comes after the preposition, which is to. So me is the object pronoun, and it comes after the preposition, which is to. So to me, right? And in our first example question, right? Me, which is the object pronoun, it comes after the action verb, which is showed, right? All right, so now our if we look at our question, it says you need to select the correct pronoun to complete the sentence. While the Gregories are traveling, we need to choose the correct pronoun, have asked Bridget to take care of their dogs, right? Remember, they're not just saying while Gregory, are traveling. They're saying while the Gregories are traveling. Then we can say they. They have asked Bridget to take care of the dog. So they. So they have asked Bridget to take care of the dog. They, which is the correct object pronoun, right? Or it is a subject pronoun, sorry. So they is a subject pronoun which basically tells us about the Gregories, right? So they, it is a subject pronoun. So they, which is the Gregories, right? They asked Bridget to look after their dog. They being the Gregories. The toddler wobbled towards. So the toddler wobbled toward with his arms waving in the air. So the toddler wobbled towards with his arms waving in the air. So we can say the toddler wobbled toward her. Let's just use her, right? With his arms waving in the air. So which means that the missing pronoun, it comes after the preposition, which is toward her. So toward is a preposition, P for preposition, right? So you should then use the object pronoun as her. All right, so last one. Are you absolutely certain that it was? We need to choose a subject pronoun. Are you absolutely certain that it was either him, or we can say it was she, right? We need to choose the best possible pronoun. So it is, are you sure, or are you absolutely sure it was, we can say it was him, or in this case, we can say it is she. So she, which is the subject pronoun, she. So she is the subject pronoun, right? And it comes after the linking verb, which was. All right, so that is now us choosing between a subject as well as an object pronoun. And we said the subject pronoun, right? It can be used within a sentence or a clause, and it tells us who is doing something. And we usually find it at the beginning of a sentence. And then we have object pronouns, which comes after an action verb, and it can also come after a preposition, right? Within a sentence. All right, so grade sevens, that is now the end of our lesson on pronouns, right? on pronouns. I really hope that you found the lesson informative, and also I really hope that you will have an amazing evening further. Bye.